Welcome back. I'm Teresa Bruno, the host of the Soul Talks podcast, and I'm here again with our resident therapist, Sheri Ryland. Delighted to be with her again today. And we are talking about a topic that is just everywhere in the media right now, and that is the topic of toxic relationships. So hang on, you're going to want to hear this. Hi, Sheri.
Hi,
Thank you for being with us again. It's always a delight to have you with us.
I'm glad to be here. And definitely, you can't even open Instagram or Facebook or TikTok or really anything without discussing the idea of toxic relationships. And I wanted to explain really what toxic means.
Yeah,
Because that
totally.
has,
Because like for somebody like me who doesn't have, your experience and all of this outline, I'm like, what's the difference between toxic and narcissist and where does all that go? So can you just start with a basic definition of a toxic relationship?
right. Well, toxic means it's not just you're dealing with somebody who has bad behavior or is a jerk, right? It's the toxic part is somebody is showing you some behavior, a good behavior, and then they change it and they turn into something different. So it's the confusion that your mind has in dealing with that person, right? So that person isn't consistent in how they treat you. So the inconsistency is the toxic part, right? So my mind wants to put people in categories, right, of all good or all bad, and having that difference is what the problem is, right? So if somebody shows me that 1 minute that's where the love bombing comes from, and the all those words that we love to use now about how we describe relationships and people, but the idea is I give you too much good, and then all of a sudden I give you so much bad. Like there's so much wrong with you. I don't know why you did that to me. There's a lot of those kind of discussions and not taking responsibility for their inconsistencies. So the inconsistency is the toxic part of it.
Okay. And again, I would say to you, like for me, what you're describing is the person on the other side that's creating this toxic relationship sounds
Yes.
like a narcissist. He's flipping the script.
Yes.
He's giving you insults one day and love bombing the next day. And then that creates this toxic thing where it's so messed up in your head and the script gets flipped so many times, you sort of begin to crave both.
Exactly, right? Because one means you're going to get the other, right? So if you think of Pavlov's dog, which we've learned in psychology and 101, right? Where we've talked about that he rings the bell and the dog salivates knowing he's going to get food, right? That's the outcome. It's the same thing, right? If that one smile after he may have told me I'm the worst person in the world, that smile looking over at me saying I love you just made me all this endorphins and all this great feelings we've been looking for come up. Oh, he does love me. And that's the part that's confusing. And it doesn't have to be that one person is a narcissist. It could be the whole inconsistency with the whole relationship, codependency, where we cannot survive without each other. I can't function if you're not doing bad, so I can take care of you, and vice versa, right? So that's also toxic.
Yeah, let's don't run by that because that's a really big thing in relationships.
Okay.
Would you just kind of expand that a little bit about how we get addicted or codependent in relationships because we enjoy the caretaking of the one who has so many issues?
Right. Because at the end, what do we look like when we're the ones who are taking care of this person who can't take care of themselves, right? That's also something I can't take care of myself. So you have to take care. I'm super dependent upon you or hyper dependent upon you, or I'm giving you what you've been looking for your whole life. Only this person can give it to me. And if they don't give it to you, that's where that back and forth happens. You were my caretaker. What happened? I can't take care of myself. So there's so much of that back and forth where if you're dealing with somebody who's also a narcissist, then they throw that back in your face. So there's that back and forth movement between that relationship that's very inconsistent. And then you have another level that's even worse, where now I'm actually enabling your level of illness. Let's say with an alcoholic, I'm bringing you alcohol at night. I'm bringing you to places I know you're going to go past your limit. I'm going to bring you the drugs because I know that I'm going to be the one to save you afterward. So those are very toxic ways of handling relationships. A healthy relationship would say, I need you to get help. I'll come with you. I'll help you along the way. I won't leave you as long as you're taking care of yourself. But if I lose the ability to be the caretaker or the hero, female or male, doesn't matter, is that I am now, where am I needed? There's something wrong with me. I am not the caretaker anymore, and I've lost my role, which is very, it plays a lot with your mind.
Yeah. And I was,
So,
it begs the question for me. I'm sitting here listening to you and I'm like, well, it sounds so convoluted and messy. How do you unravel that? How do you
well,
either unhook from it, which would mean leaving the relationship, right?
right. Yes.
Is there help and hope for a toxic relationship?
I don't believe that, to be honest, I don't believe that there is hope for a toxic relationship. It's one of those things you have to leave. It's how you were able to leave is the biggest challenge, right? That's the hardest time for people to leave, when they've woken up or they've looked at their situation and said, I have to find a way out, because that's when the person becomes the most dangerous.
Yeah.
So that's when you start looking for assistance through domestic violence shelters or having friends. That's why it's so important to always maintain your community and your friends in your life. That's what they're trying to get away from you. So if you do feel like that's something that's happening, your partner is pulling you away from those people, that's when you have to notice, whoa, I have to stop. I need these people. They are my way out. So that's the part. And we can also discuss what happens to your brain when you're in a toxic
Oh,
relationship.
please just go down
So
the path.
let's just tear it down, right? The idea is your brain starts, the hippocampus is where we hold memory. So if my hippocampus, it's shown in research that it gets smaller after all this abuse. And so when you're if you're doing EMDR or you're working in therapy and you're working on understanding how to get yourself out of that, how to retrain what's acceptable in your life, learning boundaries, that it actually can regrow the hippocampus and make it bigger. When the hippocampus gets too small, it can no longer store your memories, and that's why people have brain fog. That's why they are having short-term memory loss. And we think of that as they're just depressed, but that's part of actually damaging your brain.
I didn't realize that being in a toxic relationship was actually changing the brain.
It is.
And I
Yes.
I never knew that brain fog and depression obviously, but I wasn't thinking about the size of that portion of the brain shrinking.
Right. That's a protective factor too, of being able to shut you down. Like, your body is trying to escape all of this. So when your body is shutting down, it can't take in the information as well. If I'm constantly, it's fight or flight, right? So I'm wondering whether or not I'm going to survive. So I have to walk on eggshells to get around this person. I have to make sure I don't cause more of a problem. That's another part. That's a major part of a toxic relationship. If I can't sit down and say what you did was hurtful without having that person come at me, I'm not going to say I'm scared or afraid, because I will be more scared and afraid once I do. So, but the brain is amazing. And, the idea of neuroplasticity, where we can regrow things in our mind, in our brain, and EMDR allows for that. And that's one of the reasons why I'm such a proponent of it, is that it does help to heal that part of your brain. And that's when people start to get better and start to remember things more and work through things, and it feels safer to leave.
Well, we just have a few seconds left, but just in closing, give us your kind of 1, 2, 3. If you feel like you're in a toxic relationship, do this.
Okay, so if you feel like you're in a toxic relationship, call 211, which is all over. It's not just Florida where I am. They will give you services that will help you. You can find out what your local domestic violence shelter has, and you can also read. At most states, most police departments have a victim advocacy department that you can go to and ask for help in how to get away.
Very helpful. This is just such a tough topic, but thank you for defining it and expanding it for us. Thank you all for listening. We'll be back next Monday with more of Sheri. Take care.